You're listening to the Classic Gamers Guild podcast.
Welcome to the Classic Gamers Guild podcast, where Paul and me, Anna, hi, we explore the world of classic games and the nostalgia that they bring. And in this episode, I know I told you it was going to happen, we enclose ourselves in and talk about the game Enclosure.
And I couldn't have yikes that any harder than I did, and it still got through. That's for tenacity.
Yeah. It actually, that's what made me push it through. I'm like, oh, it gets that. Because, you know, the best puns make people groan uncomfortably and walk out of the room. And I'm assuming most listeners have probably already done that.
Which would be fair. Yeah, it's like WoW is like the silver medal and yikes is the full gold. Like, wow, that's unbelievable. Like I'm proud and disappointed at the same time. Are we recording? This is the show, huh? Shit. Okay.
Okay. Here we are. No, we're here to talk about Enclosure, which is a game that was made. Okay, when you look at the game, you'd think it was a game that was actually made in like the Police Quest 1 era of gaming. It's that beautiful AGI kind of thing going, but it was actually made in like 2003.
Yeah, it is. It was made by Fimo Duo in 2000 and probably 3.
Well, it was released in 04. So, yeah. It was made in 03, released in 04. I'm getting technical.
It is Sierra's lost spooky AGI game, as I once called it. We've actually, Anna wasn't here for it, but there's a really old CGG podcast episode on Enclosure, and I encourage you to not listen to it, especially side by side, because I don't want you all to hear how just ridiculously, potentially flip-floppy I am, and just what I may have sounded like. Like now I'm like a little bit older, you know, a little bit wiser. Kind of grizzled veteran. I'm like, I've seen some shit, so maybe it's not didn't strike me as it did then, which actually it did. I love this game, but and we'll get there. But anyway, point is that we've talked about it before, but the reason to any longtime listeners that are like, hey man, you did this already, what's the deal, is that there was recently a 3D remake of the game by Mousimus, who I hope I'm saying that right, because they're just the absolute nicest, and somebody that Anna and I are, I guess, biased towards in a friend sort of manner. Somebody's like just very supportive and well, not just supportive, but also part of the developing community. Hence, you know, them doing this. But anyway, they did the 3D remake of this game, and so we wanted to kind of touch on it again. Really, I just wanted to force Anna to play it because I loved it, and so that brings me to. Well, okay, before I say, like, what did you think about it, we should probably tell them, like, what it's about, I guess.
I mean, yeah, it's about Mike, and they say that a lot. And in fact, they almost use his name in a humorous way, right? But anyways, Mike, he's kind of like a con man, but like not a big time con man, like I'm going to rip you off and ruin your family. He's like a small time con man. And he got an offer that he can't refuse for like $10,000. I would say that kind of like sets up where it's all going in the beginning.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's funny because I do kind of they circle back to that too, where there's a scene where his girlfriend's outside crying, but like, yeah, you kind of forget that they're not the greatest of people, morally speaking. Like they're not, maybe they're not like so super proud of what they're doing, but long story short, they're kind of like fraud psychics, mediums, I guess, right?
Yeah, they have a whole stage set up. And I mean, this job, I mean, how could they refuse it? It's $10,000. They're going to an oil drilling station with like a millionaire dude, and the place is haunted. And I don't think they even believe in ghosts, really, per se, at all.
Right. Yeah. Do they even, I'm not even sure they really even touch on it. Yeah, no, they do, because at one point she's like, I think it's an actual spirit. Like, you know, they're getting their bluff called. Yeah.
Yeah, because they were trying to do the fake seance at the beginning, and they're kind of like, it all falls apart on them, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, Mike is an ineffective individual in the beginning of the game, but once you take control of him, he's arguably effective.
Amazingly so, because they throw you right into like the cockpit of a helicopter and go all launch pad on you and say, okay, now it's an arcade game, land it. Which is fine. It was fun, actually.
I'm wondering, too, if Mousimus like touched up that coding in any way. I'm not sure, because maybe I just got good at it, but the first time I played this, that was like a big critique of mine, because it took me forever to get into the game because I kept crashing the helicopter, and it was just like this immediate gatekeeping where I'm like, oh my god, please let me play the game. But this time I was able to land it on the first try. It actually had like an Astro Chicken kind of vibe, the controls.
It
Didn't
did.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it totally. I was thinking the same thing because I'm like, as soon as you had it angled in and you're landing and you get the gist, it just goes right down. It took me 2 tries. The second time I had it no problem, which is, let's say, 3 to 5% of the amount of tries it took me to do the scene at the end of the game where you got to like sneak up on some dude. And I'm like, serious? I'm almost at the point where I'm going to watch a video walkthrough, but that's okay. We're not there, and it doesn't wreck the game in any way, shape, or form.
No, but game dev me was like, where are the walkable areas?
Yeah. And you know what? It actually was me not understanding the concept of what they were trying to do with the satellite dish and how it all worked.
I would disagree because I knew, okay, you know, we'll get there. We don't need to Tarantino everybody and do this thing backwards.
But yeah, the point is, yeah, it was a cute little beginning. I liked the helicopter ride. Don't even ask me how the game was. I'm just saying, yes, those were the things.
See, I forgot I was going to, but you reminded me. So, like, how is the game? No, I won't do that to you.
No. It was good. I liked it was sexy. I liked how the whole game kind of, once you got into it, started with you having a nice shower with your lady.
I blew that. I fucked that up. I immediately, and I knew that I did because, like, there's something that he says. Anyway, I get out of bed and I put on the clothes, and there's no.
I did it too.
Oh, you did? I see, but you must have reloaded or something.
I didn't. Yeah. I restored because I was like, because I got dressed and I tried going in and they're like, well, why would you want to go in with all your clothes on? And then it was like, I go to take off my clothes and it's like, well, you're already dressed even though you smell kind of bad. And I'm like, oh,
that was
crap.
right, exactly. Yeah. But I didn't have a save and I didn't want to do the intro again, the helicopter thing again. So, like, no. So I was just like, great, and I'm not getting all the points, like just right out of the gate. I mean, yeah, I'm not a victim here because I could have taken like 6 minutes to redo it, but I didn't. I was like, you know, fuck it, we'll do it live. But anyway, real quick, what the overall story is about is I loved it because it has like it has a murder mystery element to it, like, and then there was none sort of vibe because there's this whole list of characters that are all involved and they all have different reasons for being there, and it's also, you know, spooky. It's you know, kind of got like a scary vibe to it as well. So the idea is that you've been hired by somebody who I should know his name because they do beat names to death in this game. Like they really maybe even overdo it with the names. I think they're doing it to help you like know the characters along the way. But
I have opinions on that too, actually, because I'm like, because in every game I've ever played, this is what I do. Whoever I'm closest to, talk man, talk lady. Like, I don't know, I probably even know their name, but it's just what I've always done. So I'm like, talk man. And it almost like, with the game was kind of like, this is something that kind of offends me. The game.
Right.
And it's like, I really don't like it when you're not acknowledging the name that I made. So I'd really like it if you could use it, and it's fine. And you know what? I respect that choice because it gave you the F6 option, which is like, okay, who's in this room? F6 tells me I can go up and say hi to each person. And so because of that, I'm okay with the decision.
Right. Yeah, they handled that. They did handle that in like the perfect way. Exactly. Having the F6 always tells you it's there. But I'm trying to count on screen quickly and multitask, which is just not happening. But 1, 2, 3, 4. You're all gonna have to hear me count out loud. And I'm starting over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's 10 characters in this game, including yourself. So you're Mike, your girlfriend Sarah, and then there's 8 more characters. So yeah, it is like a lot off the bat, and so yeah, they do the name thing, but it's neat because everybody's there for a different reason, and you're in the Mary, just a great name, and it's like this oil rig somewhere super cold and inconvenient, and you just you know, you're there to, well, you're not told the truth or the exact reason of why you're there until like after the first day, is it?
Yeah.
Right.
And then, yeah, everybody kind of has then there's a seance and stuff, you know, the progression. Actually, the whole game has a really nice amount of progression. If you think, well, what am I going to just wander around lost from room to room? But then stuff happens, what's in the room changes. And once you understand the layout of the game, it's actually not that confusing.
No, I did struggle a lot with the navigation, but I'm very like navigationally challenged. Like I really struggle with even basic left and rights have always been an issue for me. So I had a really hard time. Like eventually I got it in my head, like the right side of the Mary was like, you know, like the lab and the doctor's office and like more like those things, and the left side was mostly the dorms. But it was kind of a disaster for me to navigate, but that wasn't the game's fault because they have a map in the game. which is probably
which I never used.
which I never used successfully, but I stopped at
Yeah.
several times. It could be the map could be a little frustrating, but that's not their fault because of the resolution, right? So it's like you have to use the arrow keys to get the big map arrow over the square that you want to know what it is, and then you press an F key. So I mean, as far as I could tell, it's probably the best solution you could come up with for AGI. So it's like the best they could do in that scenario. But yeah, anyway, it was a little tough to navigate, but like you said, everything's kind of like. The pacing is really good in this game.
The pacing is good. And my favorite thing about this game, and it always makes me happy in a game, is when I hit F5 and I saved my game. I hit F7 and it restored my game. I hit Tab. Oh, there's my inventory. I hit F3 and it brings my text back up that I had previously written before. And all of those were so bloody satisfying as a Sierra player to have work in a game.
Yeah. Yeah, especially F3. That one was awesome because you have to talk to everybody several times. It's like it's a mini version of several things. Like there's like it's like almost a compact kernel split quest vibe because of the mystery. Like, okay, so I'll back
and
up.
the progression,
And the progression, right? Exactly, and not real time mechanics, but the progression of the timing. So to take a step back for the listeners, it's like we're in the Mary, summer cold, often snowed in, but not all the time. You can go outside on certain days and explore, which is nice. And it's supposedly haunted by Inuit's the okay word to use, right? Yeah.
I hope so. At least, yes, it's in the game. I feel
just nobody say the E word, okay?
okay.
But I didn't say the other one. The other word that I guess we're not allowed to say not for a sure valid reason. I better stop. Exactly. So anyway, just a bunch of nonsense, and then long story short, there's a haunting going on because the rich guy who brought you there, his father was trying to get oil from the site. Like he purchased the property and built the Mary just to extract the oil from the land. The local Inuits were like, bloody, knock it off. And he's like, I'm not going to knock it off. And so the Inuit froze to death in the snow, and we are here to get closure, I guess, on the situation, or find out more about the spirits. And that part's kind of vague until the rich guy gives you more details. But the point is that you're ultimately there with a team of, there's like a paranormal scientist who is Chin something. His existence is more racist than what I almost said with the E thing. I mean, he is just a Crayola shade of yellow. But this was easier to talk about with Rick on the first time through.
It would have been.
It's nice having a token Asian guy with you to get through this guy. Where's the Jewish representation? That's where I was coming from. Just it's ridiculous.
Throw that in there.
That should get us off the hook. So just reverse Jewish guiltum works every time. Anyway, enough about racism. Just taking up a shocking amount of this episode. Yes. In our show notes, the one thing we didn't account for was talking about racist stuff for a
No, we're not good at that. It's like going back and talking about any of the older games. It's like,
Yeah, it's just everyone's so serious, and we're not, and that because you're here listening to us. And this is the first time you're listening to us, then maybe you don't know that.
Sorry.
But I mean,
if this is the first time, I'm sorry. I mean, this would be an interesting.
If this is right, if this is the first time, it's also the last time. Just let them go.
It's okay. Actually, probably the last one because I talked about my cat. That might have been It depends on if you like cats or not, really. But I won't do it again.
It really polarizes the whole cat dog demographic.
It does. I'm
a dog person. This is ridiculous.
Lost them altogether. But okay, so the game was good. The commands were great. It was super duper in the style of, like I said, you could be replaying Police Quest 1 or just any one of those super early kind of games, and you'd feel perfectly comfortable thinking that this came from a Sierra standpoint, except for it's just a little tiny bit grittier, naughtier, in a different way than even a Space Quest game was. It's that little bit of modern sort of humor to it that does set it apart a bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. So this came out in 04-ish or whatever. Mm-hmm. You were there earlier in the episode, you guys. You heard it. And I'm sure we were more accurate then. And so it was I mean, really, Adventure Game Studio was just getting started. There really wasn't like this abundance of like, indie adventure games. Like this is like emerging out of like the so-called dead period of adventure games. So this game was actually done in AGI, like Sierra's AGI engine, and it's just, it hits a weird period of time because it came out really just before like a bunch of like fan games, like before like Ben Jordan Paranormal Investigator from Grundislav, and before the Shiva from Dave Gilbert and Wadjet. Like it was before that stuff, and before there was like means to make this stuff easily, because I'm sure it was just very difficult to make this in AGI in the 2000s and or the noughties, and love that. And so anyway, it's like you let your guard down and kind of let it in as like this like forgotten Sierra game, but then it does hit you with like these rougher indie edges, like just little things with maybe the art, or like you can tell that they didn't do it with a commercial sale in mind. Simple as that. They weren't
Very
concerned
much so.
about like this broad commercial spectrum. They were just making a game they wanted to make, which is part of its charm and why it's awesome, because it's just, yeah, you could tell that they were having fun with it, I think.
Yeah, it is charming, and I said it is kind of hard to Google it, right? I mean,
Right.
as far as like marketing things go, I'm like Enclosure 2004, Enclosure PC game. Like it just the right combination of words to make information about this game come up was a little bit challenging. I admit, in 2004, I'm sure the internet was a little bit less cluttered, but now it definitely does get mixed up in there. What did you think of the 3D version, by the way?
Right, so that the inspiration plates again was the 3D, and I thought it was awesome. Like I really, this game, I was nervous when I downloaded it. I was a little bit nervous that it was gonna like be nauseating or just like too much movement, or because if you watch like a trailer of it in 3D, it kind of like left right, just like all these 3D scenes, and I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I'll be able to stand like a whole game that's just like waving and moving around like this. But it was, at no point did I notice any sort of like aversion to its 3D-ness, let's say. So that was all worry for naught. And the game serves it well, right? Because you're going through a lot of like corridors, like is that something like that, right? Like a fancy word for hallway. And so
It is, yeah.
it works really well. It like kind of brings the hallway towards you, and it's just endlessly trippy, for lack of a better word, because it's AGI and it's like beautifully rendered in a 3D that I can't even explain, like truly 3D, where like every scene has multiple levels of parallax going on, and
It's trippy, right?
yeah, it was,
And you can switch back and forth if you don't like the 3D. Actually, totally get the new version. It worked right away. It gave me no problems, and you can switch between the 3D and the non-3D anytime you like to catch an idea of what all of it looked like. Because I know, Mousimus, you did a fantastic job on the 3D. Wow.
yeah, like it definitely makes me want to see more things done in this. I can't imagine the amount of work. Like I'm sure it's just not that easy.
No.
Said. I really almost be curious to know more about how they did it, because I guess you would need almost the original art files, because there is like when you go outside, for example. So if you can't visualize it, I'll do a real poor job of helping you. Just imagine a big old red metal building in the Arctic, and a snowy mountainous background, and Mousem has made like a parallax of that, where the background was like what's that word? Oh yeah, blurry. Was like blurred out, and then there was like the focus gets greater as you come forward, and it was just done in like all these layers, and it makes me wonder like how you could do that unless you had like not only the original artwork, but then also can like assuming the original artwork was done in layers. So, but it was the original artwork because it's all identical. So anyway, the whole thing is just a trip, and I think that is kind of fun to have in your mind as you're playing it too. There is this like, how did they do this element?
Yeah, I agree. I'd not seen anything like it, and it was much preferable to seeing the 3D photos that flash up on Facebook, where people are like, "Oh, it's my 3D photo. I don't like that, but I do like the Enclosure 3D." And at first, when I saw it, I was like worried it would be like stomachy, because I'm like not into VR very much, but it's not. It's classy, man. It's really classy.
It is. It looks like it was designed to be in 3D. It is extremely complimentary, and it adds. I think it adds a potentially missing element or ingredient to this game that it almost needs, because in 2004 it wasn't competing against like the thousands of indie adventure games like we were just mentioning. So it's like nowadays, like why should I play this? It's like that's exactly why. It's a really cool experience to be able to play it in the 3D. And then otherwise, like the style of the art was really cool, because it's like black frames around all the rooms. Like it's so
Mhm.
authentic to how Sierra did everything in the AGI era. Like there's something so gratifying about like the doctor's office with the tile on the walls or the kitchen. It's
Mhm.
just, yeah, it feels the art feels very authentic.
And here where I'm going to hit a little heavy into spoilers for a moment, which I don't always do, but this time I am. But when it gets later in the game and the crazy scenes start happening and everything gets so much more visceral, the art and the 3D rendering of the art even makes it more powerful, because it's already kind of powerful, the way that the music, which is beautiful, by the way, and so atmospheric, but the way that the music changes the tone, and then the crazy art with so few colors, it brought me to Manhunter, which I know, Paul, you said you haven't spent a huge amount of time with, but maybe a little bit. But Manhunter did the same thing with very few colors. It managed to make these visceral, like horrifyingly epic scenes. So they both did that really well in their own style.
No, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I would say like all the like bips and bleeps of AGI were so effective and haunting and ominous, and like these little melodies were coinciding with like the discoveries that you were making. Like
Mm-hmm.
they complemented it so well to where it literally had the hairs on my arm raised at one point. I played this whole game, and this is just one of those, in case the original developers and even Mousemist, of course, but in case Fimodu is listening, to just say that I played this with my 8-year-old son, and he adored it like the whole way through. Like this is like a kid
Mm-hmm.
who, I mean, yeah, I've kind of indoctrinated him with
Just a little.
did he ever have a choice? But at the same time, like what he really does with his own choices and free time is play Roblox and
Mm-hmm.
bullshit like that. So like to say that he was engrossed with this game, we played it I think in like 2-3 hour chunks in 2 different nights, and I mean he was in it like the whole time, and he's like, okay, Dave, like he made sure that when I save each game, it said like the day we were on and then the save. Like he was very into this game. And there
Mm-hmm.
was like this one scene where like he jumped and it made the hairs on my arm raise. That's a weird, hard sentence for me to say. I want to say the arms on my hair raise, but anyway,
Mm-hmm.
it's like a heat seater in a car, but it's really a seat heater, I guess.
I make that mistake all the flipping time. Oh my God. I can't believe you say that. Dude, I just like 2 days ago, and people make fun of me for that one. How do you even?
It's more natural that way, right? It's like it works better
Yes.
the other way. I know.
Heat seater. I know. Oh my God. That is so weird to hear that coming out of somebody else's mouth.
So anyways, I showed him because I'm like, look at the hairs on my, because he's like still wrapping his head around like how just life works. So I'm like, this is what the hairs on your arms look like. In case you never saw it, I don't know. But like I got to explain this shit to him. Perhaps maybe I don't. I probably don't. But anyway, I remember very, very, clearly because of that. And then there's another scene. I won't spoil. I'm not saying which scenes did what on
Not
purpose.
hard spoiling, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Soft spoils.
And there was another one that made me jump and actually let out like some sort of noise, and then that noise scared him because my son handled it better than I did. But the point is like the little bleeps and bloops and the sound effects, like the kind of like echoing, haunting, hollow, tinny sounds that they were playing in the background, like it's done quite masterfully, to be honest. Like it really. And it's funny because Anna, your son Jacob was playing the Colonel's Bequest at the same time we were playing this, and there is a lot of similarities in the sense of like how effective this resolution can be with the right amount of nudges from the music.
Oh my gosh, yeah, because I was like, "Oh, what's up?" And he was in the room where the clock is ticking before he discovered the first secret passage, right?
Mm.
He's like, "Oh my gosh, this room is scary." And then he went into the room with the chandelier, and he still doesn't know the chandelier kill him at the time or nothing. He's walking along the sides, but he's like, "I got that feeling on the inside of my throat. It feels like something's caught in my throat.
Oh,
And every
nice.
time I come in this room, I get this feeling." And then he's like, "Oh, the ticking of the clock is so unsettling. Oh," he's like, "I almost can't stand it." And then he opened the passage and was like, the clicking of the clock stopped. And he's just like, "Oh, phew, what a relief. That was
Right,
intense." And
right.
I'm like, those are the feels. Those are really the feels, man.
Thank you so much for bringing that to the conversation, because to anybody who hasn't played Enclosure, and I'm sure a lot of you are at least familiar with or have played Colonel's Bequest, it does that. It really does
It
an
does.
amazing job of giving
It
you those vibes.
actually does.
Yeah.
It's so good. I put headphones in because there's stuff going around, and I realized as soon as I started playing the game, because at first I'm like, what do I care? It's just like a text game, and there might be some music in the background. But then I realized very, very quickly that the music was an integral part of the whole experience. And once I put on headphones and fully started experiencing the game, like, what a good trip. Like, what a cool feeling that I haven't had from playing a game in such a long time.
Yes. Yeah. And two quick notes too. Anna messaged me saying that her son was going to continue to play it, but not until she was around. And that's adorable.
Yeah. He's like, you need to be in the room when I play it. Because, I like it when we talk about the game when I'm playing it. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you don't even know what's going to happen, buddy. This game will get you.
That was a mix. I'm like, SCI has still got it. 2023, it's still making him not want to. So that's awesome. And I will say too is that I mentioned we played this in 2 3-hour chunks ish.
Yep.
And so the morning after the first time, I hadn't closed the game out, and I was working on art for Phantom Fellows, and and just this very low volume hollowing was going on, and it was affecting my morning. After 2 or 3 hours, I'm like, all right, what is that? What is going on here? Why is everything so eerie around here today? And it was just I left Enclosure on.
Oh man, that's great. That's like one of my good friends from the Classic Gamers Guild, Josh, was saying. He was standing in a lineup and he was listening to music, and he started feeling really irritated, and it turns out he was listening to the coffee protection music from Space Quest 4 or something. So it was intentionally supposed to make you feel that way. So as soon as he changed the song, he's like, oh, everything's fine now.
That's awesome. Yeah, it is exactly like that. Was that Orion or Stuart?
Oh, Stuart. Yeah, sorry, but both fantastic people, of course.
Right. I shouldn't have made you pick, right?
Now they know I've chosen that they're both amazing.
Well played. No, you covered that perfectly.
Thank you.
Okay, so I only have 2 notes, and I luckily haven't got to either of them yet, which is delightful.
Oh, right. Yes, 2 notes. I have 2 notes as well. So perfect. Because I will do our little notes, and then I want to have a few other little talks about things. And yes, do the thing.
Perfect. So mine, I said pacing earlier, but didn't really talk about it. So this game is set up in, is it 4 days? I think it's 4 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's set in 4 days, and I think maybe even the first time around, I might have even gone the opposite direction and thought the pacing was odd, because you would arguably a disproportionate amount happens in the 4th day. But this playthrough around, I actually kind of think the pacing is brilliant, because it allows you to take your shoes off, walk around, get to know everybody in the Mary, talk to all these new characters, and start to formulate little subtle biases against them. I think this guy's gonna do, he did it, and and things like that. And start to take inventory of everybody around. Day 3 is really short, which is actually kind of nice in a way, in a setting up sort of way. But it's laid out quite nicely. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I really appreciate how quickly things fall apart in this game. So
yeah, me too.
Right. So day 1 and 2 is getting to know everybody. Or let's say setup is day 1. Day 2 is almost more set up in the gathering inventory sort of way. Day 3 is a bridge, and then day 4 it's things just fall apart fast. And I think because of that is where a lot of these jumpy emotions come from, because it's this sense of chaos that you can't keep up with settles in, where it's things just start happening and don't stop, to where you're just it's very unnerving in a great way, and it very much serves the story sort of way, where it's just Chin dies. And then from there, it's just kind of a buckle up situation. Things get fucked really quickly.
Yeah, it really does. And if it's not happening really quickly at any time, there's a Power Ranger essentially that'll come out and say, "Hey, you having a little bit of trouble? You want a little bit of guidance?" And unfortunately, whether you like it or not, he's going to give it to you. But he'll kind of direct you and put you on cue.
Yeah, that was really, really clever of the programmers too, to have that. I don't know if it was on a timer, but it was. I would guess it was
must have been, yeah.
Right, timer from last interaction, or maybe depending on whether you had an inventory item or not, doesn't matter. But I do want to know in a nerdy sense. But but that was that was very cool. And so yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that was my little pacing note. I think that was really well done. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the other, well, okay, I'm gonna save my second note and pass over to you. But before I do, I'm gonna name my favorite part of the game, and then I'd like to know yours. So this is, don't
Mm-hmm.
listen to me, but think of your favorite part while I talk. So my favorite part is, okay, your girlfriend Sarah has discovered like a journal hidden behind some books,
Mm-hmm.
and she's reading the journal from a girl who was working at the plantation or at the refinery, I guess, long ago. Just noting how like things are getting creepier, and there seems to be like the spirit, and things start to unravel, and then she's like, okay, well, we're kind of desperate for. I forgot, honestly, but she said, we have to get on the jet ski, or we have to get on the snowmobiles and venture out to
Mm-hmm.
find something for a valid reason at the time.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna, it's very apparent that she doesn't return because you found her journal, and then you get to go out and explore outside of the Mary, and you eventually get to, well, actually you have to get past my least favorite part of the game to get
Hmm.
the snowmobile arcade sequence. Any
Yeah.
adventurer's least favorite part of the game is the arcade sequence, but you get to like this giant like ice thing, and you break the ice open, and you find like the frozen bodies of these people, and one of them is the girl, and she's clutching like another diary, and you get to read that part of the diary, and that was just it was so adventure gamey and satisfying. I love that part.
Yeah, actually it was. And it's funny. I was going to mention that my favorite part was that when you get through the hole and you make the hole in the ice and you get to go in and you find the old encampment, and it's sad and it's poignant and it's interesting and it gives you more information. I actually really liked that part of the game. I also I really liked the references to Gwydion. I thought it was pretty funny too, with the switch in the bookshelf. What do you think this is? And who do you think you are? And then at the end with the
Right.
books. Just those little in jokes and stuff is neat.
Yeah, well played. And it wasn't as many as I guess you would think. It was like a Sierra amount of them, right? Because Sierra would
Like
just put one
two.
or two, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
and so they
very
didn't.
not many at all.
Yeah, they didn't beat it to death, which was nice. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you're right. The ice cave scene where you find their frozen bodies. It's quite
Mm-hmm.
sad.
Mm-hmm. I
There's
really like that. I mean, I didn't like it. You know what I mean? I appreciated the scene for what it was and what it meant, and I could feel the scene. It was a very, very well put together scene.
You know what it was that really hit me in that scene was, I guess this is heavy spoilers, but I don't think it matters. It's like, is in her journal when she's like, okay, so you found their frozen bodies. Just setting this up for the listeners. You've read the first few pages, like Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. You're reading her journal as she's kind of stranded out here in this ice cave,
Mm-hmm.
trying to survive because their snowmobiles broke down and they're too far to walk back during a storm. And she's describing how the situation's falling apart around them, and how she's kind of screwed and coming to terms with her mortality. Which really all this is needs no reasoning as to why we found it sad and powerful. But then there's this part where she's like, it's her and two guys, and so
Mm-hmm.
in the writing she's just like, so and so and so and so haven't moved in a while. And like the way it was written was very like, she knows they're dead, but she doesn't
Mm-hmm.
want to confirm it. Like
I agree.
she's just like, well, they haven't moved in a while. Like she doesn't want to really just like face the fact that her the only two people left in her life are dead now, because she's just like, well, they must be sleeping kind of vibe. Like, I don't know, there's just something very human about like, that might be what we
It
would
was.
think if we were there. Yeah, it was really good. Really good
It
stuff.
was. It took me rather nerdily to an episode of Red Dwarf where they initially got Crichton. I don't care if you know the show or not, but my point is, when they initially got Crichton, he was still on his spaceship, and the people that he'd been caring for, the ladies on there who he thought were still quite alive, were skeletons. But of course, he'd been feeding and caring for them for like hundreds of years. But he didn't want to admit to them that they were dead, right? And so it was just funny, this whole realization period that he went through of all of it. Anyways, that's the funny side of a sad scene.
It is. And a fun fact, Crichton would go on to write Jurassic Park. I don't know if anybody knows that. I'm sorry.
Very good. That's all right,
I'm sorry.
Snaghead. It's fine.
Yeah. All right, you got notes for you? Give us a note.
Actually, I kind of gave them to you while we were talking. It was about the ice cave. It was the poignancy there and the Gwydion references. So we covered those pretty quickly. Like I liked the relationship you had with your girlfriend was very real. I felt they did love each other. It was a little bit like naughty. And, I think it happens like that. If you're in a relationship with somebody and you do these crazy adventures, especially things that are maybe on the more wild or illegal side, or run a business together or do things like that, it ends up giving you that kind of a neat connection that they had in the game. So I did think that was cool. And like you said, it was heavy on the names in the game, but I thought it made me laugh every time somebody was like overusing the word Mike, like your name. The way that they had people talk to you in this like deadpan, straightforward, okay, Mike, wait, it just seemed so funny to me.
No, I totally agree. Well, so both your points, one I'll say is like, yeah, there was like a Bonnie Clyde sort of vibe, right? Like this like high stakes, high passion sort of thing going on with them. And I think even in the original episode where I previously had just played this game and talked about it, I may have even mentioned that it was a little annoying. That there was like a little, but so I went into it this time expecting that, and it wasn't there. I'm like, it's not that bad. Like it really wasn't. Yeah, I looked at it more like you were describing, like this kind of Bonnie and Clyde, like high passion sort of way. And there's just not that many interactions between the two of you for it to have gotten to like thick and lovey dovey. But, and then to your second point, it's a big ask. Can I remember that? That was like a minute and a half ago. No, I can't is the answer.
No, that's fine. So that's fine.
Yeah, it's totally fine. But I have another note. I'm going to read that, and that is, the game did characterization really well. Oh, I remember the point now. Is I think what made that you were saying the name thing, and that made it kind of funny for you. I think the part of the name thing was that they insisted on the first and last name for everybody all the time. Like there was never like it's day 3, you've got this. It's not Lisa, it's Lisa McIntyre every time. So like, hey, Mike Goodman, how like it, I think that did make it. It depends on your mood. It was either annoying or funny. I think we both found it kind of funny, so that's good.
Yeah, I felt like I said, I love the game and so many things about it. And fine, if you've made the game and you're listening, I would love for you to tell me I'm wrong or that's just silly. But I wonder if it was maybe a pet peeve or something that maybe people didn't use or learn the names in a game. And maybe if I were the developer, if I were imagining, I'd be like, look, there's like 10 characters. If a person can't bother to learn their names, there's such little to this game. I'll make it easier for them there, but like, come on. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you don't think about it that way, but that's how I imagine it. It makes me laugh. I think it's great.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Like, I think that would be the approach. There's also, it was almost done like a novel. Like it was, and it made me think while I was playing, I'm like, were Sierra games like this in like before portraits? Let's say like, for dialogue boxes, like AGI era, right? So anybody listen, like the white box with the red frame, the red, I want to say string for some reason, but the red bar around it. And, and I was just like, I don't know if Sierra, because they laid it out very much like a novel, like da 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 da, Mike said. And and it wasn't not for better or worse. It just observationally, I guess, I thought it was kind of interesting. But yeah, and it totally did help because I just said Lisa McIntyre, and that is a character's name. So like it worked. It's like a lot of them are in there. Okay. So,
I actually thought the scientist Chin was a girl for most of the first day. And it wasn't until somebody referred to them as a boy that I was like, oh, so like, I guess I didn't even notice that.
Oh,
I was so convinced it was going to be a female character before I played it for some reason.
Yeah, that's odd because you could have just said now it was a female and it would have been like,
ambiguous a little bit almost, which is fine. I mean, I don't need everybody to be a girl or a boy. They can be whatever they want to be. You know what? This episode's already one of our more political episodes and we barely said it. That's fine.
Yeah, no, the whole Arctic community is going to be down our throats later. Let me tell you,
it's true. I can't even make the jokes I want to make right now. So moving on. Okay.
But we can all imagine them, and they're hilarious.
They're not,
because nothing's funny.
Yeah. No, we're not allowed. We're gonna get.
Okay.
I don't even. Okay, that's good.
How do we
moving on?
Characterization was amazing in this game.
Characterization was amazing. It was very good. It was personable. The flow was great. I really liked it. I would recommend you guys playing it. It is so good. It is the only game that has been featured twice on this podcast.
Yeah, it is. That is odd. But I was so excited about it. I had to have Anna, jump in on this and give it a go. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. So if you like Sierra AGI games, it really, I stand by my statement from the first time this show did an episode on this game, which was, it does still feel like a missing Sierra game. Like, yes, there is some like aspects of it where, as we said earlier, it's like you can tell it's not for a commercial audience. So it's like, I guess what I'm saying is don't, expect like a completely Sierra super polished commercial product, but you can definitely go in expecting like all the charm and all the basic ideas of it. The puzzles we didn't really talk about too much, but like, it's pretty light on the puzzles, I guess.
It's like I said, the ending puzzle, you have to go and get a guy and shoot him and you can't get caught. And that was kind of a pain in the butt because it took me a really long time. But I mean, it was doable and didn't take as long as some other puzzles. And after credits, they have they have outtakes. If you ever play the
Mhm.
game, don't stop the game before the credits are done. So worth it. Stick around.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I'm trying to think, yeah, because I think the puzzles were actually quite enjoyable in a sense. Like they were all pretty.
I didn't have to go Googling for figuring stuff out on this game, other than, like I said, at the end, I Googled to figure out how to get past the guy with the gun because I couldn't figure out the pattern.
Right. Like I'm thinking, like you see the cat with the mouse, and you're like, I'm gonna have to get that
Yeah.
mouse at some point. So you know that, and you know
And the
how
rest
to.
of it's, you know, you're going to have to get the berry. And
Yeah. There's something with a plant where you're like, I'm gonna either need like gloves to touch it or something to, and then he's like, I need to water at all times. It's killing my social life, which is very funny.
I know I liked that. It made me laugh.
It's just a really good time, and it's light and it's breezy, and you could play it in, I don't know, because I played it with my 8-year-old, as I
Yeah.
said, so it took a long time. How long would you
It's
stay
2
on it?
hours,
Nice.
2.5 hours tops if
An
you're not playing
afternoon.
with the kid. Yeah, an
Yeah.
afternoon. And I got full points on it. And I only on a fluke because I went after I did some fishing and I did what I had to do with the fish for the cat. And then I was like, hey, can I go fishing again? And I was curious. And then I realized I was
Right.
like, oh, wait, I can actually do something with this. So it's a bonus thing. You don't actually have to do it. But it was kind of neat that it was in there.
And there's some really good little tiny character animations that
Mhm.
I need to give credit to, because like the fishing rod is just, they nailed
Yeah,
that. Like it is so
they
bendy
did.
and so satisfying. And
They did great. And looking at the inventory items close up, I really liked that.
yeah, that's done really well. There's one of the characters, Owen, is another really funny part of the game. Um, yeah, I guess I shouldn't even say anything about spoilers, but it's even funnier later in the game, like the context of
Mhm.
it. But you find Owen just knocking on a wall, and it's a
Mhm.
great animation. And you're like, "What are you doing?" He's like,
Mhm.
"Hunting for ghosts." And you're like,
Yep.
"What?"
Is he just sitting on a chair in the middle of a hallway? It's beautiful.
Just knocking on the wall. That animations. There's so many tiny, just charming, adorable animations, and it's really
Mhm.
fun. If you like AGI, then you'll like this. If you want like a traditional comprehensive review of this, as we never do, Pushing Up
Mhm.
Roses has an awesome video on Enclosure. It's this game doesn't have like a ton of love or attention because it wasn't commercial, and it's in that
Yeah,
weird period of time. So
it is.
it was a nice kind of surprise to see that well, to see years ago that she had done this video. So you guys could always check out her channel. It's awesome, but she did a great video on this too.
I agree. And speaking of videos and creating things, I think it's about time in the show that we start doing a little chat about Dev Corner and Phantom Fellows and what you've been up to in the game. Because I totally want to know.
Nice. Okay, right. We're gonna do this now. I committed to a while ago, and now I regret. But it's so we're gonna try and do a dev corner because I'm getting closer to the end, and we're gonna do it at the end of the episodes because I know that you guys didn't sign up for this shit. So if you don't want anything to do with it, then you can just leave. So it's great. Like you get to. Or in other words, I'm not gonna be a dick and like put it in the beginning of the episode where it's like you got to hear about my day first, like because nobody potentially cares. So we're just gonna do this dev thing at the end. That way, it's like, hey, feel free to go. We're just going to spend an extra 10 minutes going over where we're at with the game because it seems like more people care than I would like to admit, as far as like,
Mhm.
wanting to know where things are at and what it's like to make a game. And I,
It's
I,
pretty important.
I
And
don't know
I've been
why I find it hard.
noticing,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah. You've been
yeah,
noticing. I find it hard to believe, even though I would probably want to hear myself. But then again, I would go on to make a game. So that was always in me. That's the paradox. I don't know.
well, I've been noticing that you've been there's been a lot of new art floating around for your game lately. Like you had a game and you had things set up, play the demo, everything looks one way, and now it's like you've been going back and revamping all of your scenes, and now they've got like this 3D texture happening and like all different kinds of like lights and cool effects. Are you actually making other changes right now, or are you just kind of prettying things up? Why are you doing this?
Okay, all right. So how about this? Okay, we'll do for this dev corner will be how things have changed from demo to now, just
Mhm.
in a hopefully kind of quick way. Okay, so yeah, okay, so the art's changed a lot. I redid, I think every room, every single room got redone. Most of them got drastically redone, and then just a few of them got like a kind of almost like a more 3D touch up. And it's all still chunky pixel art. It's like 160 by 100 resolution, super chunky. So when I say 3D, it's like using pixels and contrast and whatever. But yeah, it all got quite a makeover because I just I found my way with Pixar and what I wanted to do, and I finally found inspiration. I was like, I need to make this game. I love where I live. I live in Boulder-ish, Colorado, and it's just the most beautiful place I've ever been to, and that's why I moved here. And I was like, I was lacking direction on like visual direction, art and artistic direction on this game, and I was like, well, I should just make it look like where I live, because you like that a lot, and then you'll know what to draw, and that all just worked out, thank God. Um, so that was kind of like the inspiration between going back and doing it. I just wanted to give it more of its own personality. I felt like it had, we all knew where like roots were of the game and things like that, and it's just, yeah, it's like it's out of puberty now, and it's blossoming into its own little flower. Yeah, that was gross, but yeah, I said it, and I'm not editing this, so that's just, we'll deal with that. But yeah, so that's on the art side. Everything got a remake. If you had played the demo, then the demo has like a very traditional baked in Sierra sort of drop down menu style, which is not gone, but I've completely overhauled the GUI, and everything looks gorgeous, and it's, well, in my opinion, gorgeous in its own direction, and it's yeah, I guess I learned how to code better. So like, you don't have to use the drop down menu anymore if you don't want to, but you can, and everything has its own custom icons and custom mouse icons and things like that. And there's multiple different ways to like switch characters now, whether it's keybinds or in that drop down menu or hotkeys, whatever. So all that's changed. Yeah, what else?
Right, and it looks like a lot of the art you've done really focused on light play. It seems like, is that a fascination with you? Or, I mean, it really adds a lot of charm. It takes what could be a simple room, and you add a little bit of fog, or you add the lights in, and it totally changes it entirely. You've got like these funky rainbows and stuff going on. I love it, though.
Thank you. Yeah, it's what I have the most fun with. It's like yeah, it's what I want to see, I guess. And I took a lot of inspiration, I think, in deciding to make a game from like Ben Chandler and a lot of his work with Wadjet or with Grundislav, and he introduced me to the idea of like, you can do really complex lighting in a pixel art game. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly how he does it, but on my end, it's like I draw everything in 160 by 100, and then I double it to the traditional Sierra 360 by 200 size, and then I do the lighting in that. So it's like you get these chunky pixels in the 160 100 size, and then the lighting effects is basically double the pixels. So it allows me to just kind of trip myself out. And a lot of that is what Ben Chandler's work looks like, where just, the lighting, the glow around the light will be just, twice or maybe even more the amount of pixels that the surrounding room is. And it just gives you like this really cool like contrast. I love anything with high amounts of contrast is always fascinating to me. So yeah, it's just, I'm able to get the amount of mood and I guess really this contrast is like the best word for it. I love the mix of like old giant chunky pixels with just like kind of mind blowing like clouds or lighting things that are just like, yeah, make you take a second look sort of thing. It's the most fun to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. Well, I'm kind of obsessing over it too. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh,
Can't
thanks.
wait to see it all put together. Well, cool. Okay, so you've done some design changes, some development changes, some graphics changes, and I mean that's what a game is, though, right? You have a baby, and when they're new, you don't really know what they're doing, and as they get older, and you figure stuff out, and I mean it will happen in the second game too. You're going to keep on developing and modifying. You can see it in like the Wadjet games and in the series and stuff, Blackwell and all that. It's just that the series develops, the developer develops, and everybody matures as everything moves along, and everything gets more complex, and everything gets a little bit more and more too. So
That's a really good point. Yeah, the art had to be brought to current, right? Like I had to go back to day 1, 2, and 3, and even 4, and make those current with day 5, 6, and 7, where like I had finally found my, I guess, my way with art and
yeah,
my direction that I wanted to take the game in, and
yeah,
which was making it look more like my home in Boulder-ish,
yeah.
Colorado, and just had to make sure that everything was nice and consistent. And other things changed too. I had to bring current, like the GUI was just cookie cutter, kind of copy and paste from Sierra/AGS. Now the GUI has like its own custom feel, how exactly I wanted it, because I was capable of doing it that way. And Engelbert, I've always I've hinted to this in like our podcast and our interview with Hotspot, but like I would like, if nothing else, for this game to be a bit of a legacy for my son. And I think, being like a solo dad, it's like, it's important to me to just instill as many things as I can in him in the cleverest of ways that I can come up with. So I at some point, I know exactly, it was in day 4, cemented in day 5, that I was like, the ghost needs to represent some philosophies, let's say, of what I would like my son to hear, but more so fitting to the story is like Engelbert can begin to nudge Oliver into the right direction, into how to be an individual. And so I began writing him in day 4, but again, through 5 and through 6 and through 7, Engelbert suddenly, he didn't change, but he found a very solid direction where like there's like this other part of him now that kind of like has this almost Jungian side to him as far as philosophy and just almost like Taoist flow sort of vibe to him, where he's will kind of drop some deeper things onto Oliver as if to just nudge him into balance or into the right direction. So yeah, it was a matter of going back and maturing the art and going back and making Engelbert as consistent as I possibly could with who he more turned out to be. Oh god, and then the other thing was the overarching story. I hesitate to say had to change, but it changed because after 3 years now, it's like I have all these ideas swimming around. It's like I know exactly now what I would like to do for a second and third game, and just I know now that I want to do a trilogy with this badly, and I have some really cool ideas for it, at least I think. And so the overarching story basically changed to serve that, where it's like, okay, I need certain things now to happen in the overarching that can serve the second and third game, because it's gonna. Yeah, I'm not gonna, because I don't want to spoil anything, but it went from an overarching that served a need and was good and everything like that, to now it's looking farther ahead. Phew, that was a struggle there. I just had to do an edit because I started saying words like penetrate and things. It was just making it worse. But anyway, yeah. So basically, the art's matured, the characters themselves, I mean, at least one of the two characters matured, and so has the overarching, so is the GUIs, everything. So yeah, it's officially out of puberty and on its way.
Yeah, no, we're good. Okay, well, that's what I'm looking for, and I'm looking forward to. I have a couple other questions I will ask you on the next time, because there's just always so much exciting stuff to talk about. But in the meantime, let's see. Thank you. That concludes today's episode of a show that we clearly don't, and that is fine, of the Classic Gamers Guild podcast. And I hope you enjoyed our chat about Enclosure. You can now release yourself from your own enclosure, go out in the world, and enjoy your day or evening. But in the meantime, now I'm going to interrupt myself to say, if you want to get a hold of us, and I'm going to say we do have some fans who do get a hold of us. In particular, I'm just going to give a shout out to Brian. Yeah. My goodness, my man, who is also an extremely talented musician and, has all sorts of other things going for him. And he is a great fan. He has sent some really interesting, intriguing emails that have given us lots to think about on the episodes that we've done, and ideas that we could do, your issues with pixel hunting that you've had. I really like talking, about Toonstruck with Paul, and your letter on it really added to the episode. So if you are interested in Brian too, you can check him out. He's death defying. He's got some music out there. You can find him on Bandcamp. Or,
look, listen, you goddamn better buy his music.
Do it. It's flippin' so good. I swear to you, it is so good. You can also find him on GEMAKNIGHT or Make Night. I don't know how to pronounce it, but GEMAKNIGHT.
Oh, please stop.
At gmail.com. It's his Patreon, and go and buy the guy a cup of coffee. It's important.
Shit, so. We'll link that, because I was an asshole and I talked over the part where he could get money from this. But his music is so good. If you like the intro to Police Quest 2 and you're like, I would like to hear just so much more of that in different ways, you would love it. It's the best synthwave music I've ever heard. I'm still listening to it. I think I'm just endlessly fascinated with how with the fact that I genuinely love it. You know, there's like so many times where it's like, oh yeah, he does music, check it out, it's good. I'm like, no, but this is like, it's really, really good. Strummer loves it. We've been jamming his new album all week in the car. His music is so good. If you put on his new album and just drive around town, like I dare you to not feel like you're in Miami in 1988. Like the wind blows stronger. It's amazing.
Atmospheric. It's gorgeous. So yeah, check him out. And if you want to even stay connected with us or send more emails like our friend has been, you can find us mail@classicgamersguild.com. That's our email address. You can give us a tweet at CGG Podcast or phantomfellows.com. Somebody will see something on either one of those somewhere. And you can also like us on Facebook. Classic Gamers Guild podcast. That's where we are. You can also join the Classic Gamers Guild. Just answer the 3 questions. It's super easy. Find us on Instagram, occasionally updated at CGG Podcast. And of course, don't forget our Patreon. I know that our Patreoners haven't forgotten because, as we've mentioned before, we have some real long timers in there and also love to see the fresh people too. Fresh people. I'm so sorry. But anyways, patreon.com/Classic Gamers Guild. At least I'm not talking about my cat's litter box. Remember to support the show. Don't forget to hit subscribe. Just for science, again, we did notice that we had some nice downloads. We know we did the episode with the Adventure Game Hotspot. You can find their stuff online too. We've got to connect all these amazing people because we all truly love adventure games. And that's what it boils down to.
Yes, go check out our Adventure Game Hotspot thing. It's on. We'll link that in the description too. And that's actually a video. So if you've been listening for like 3 years and you're like, "What do these fuckers look like?" Well, you could see right there. I'll tell you in Technicolor. Yeah. It's not impressive, but it's closure. And are we done? Are we good? Can I say the thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Say the thing.
Don't say the E word or do a murder.
Right. That's perfect.